Chapter 8. That night, Tessa unfolded her star tent and pitched it in the dog run, careful to find a clean, clear spot. The tent popped up easily, complete with everything Tessa could want, including a portable microzap. Tessa knew the tent was invisible to wishling eyes, but she wondered briefly if animals could spot it. Either way, she needed to be up and out before anyone came to the shelter in the morning. Good thing the bell she'd heard chiming when she first arrived continued to ring every hour on the hour. That was one way to keep track of Wishworld time. Tessa eyed her countdown clock uneasily. She probably had 2 to 3 Wishworld days left with so much still to do. But it wouldn't help to worry or let her mind wander back to problems on Starland. Instead, she smoothed the deep plush rug that stretched across the floor. She plumped her luxurious pillows, chosen specially for the trip, and sank into her bed between cool, smooth sheets. There. It was almost like being home. She stretched, reaching for warmed-up tarts and sandwiches on the nightstand. Now what? Tessa didn't feel tired at all. So she fiddled around with her Stars app and found a wishling video called Middle School Musical 2. It followed students throughout a day at school. Tessa made a note in her cyber journal especially for Leona. Sometimes wishlings break out in song to express their feelings, even if gopher-like creatures don't. Tessa must have been more tired than she realized. The next thing she knew, the bell sounded 9 times. Starf! She'd better hurry. The shelter would open any starmin. As quickly as she could, she packed her things and rushed to the front entrance. A wishling girl was walking down the path just ahead. The girl had straight reddish hair, tied back in a short bobbing ponytail. If Tessa squinted, the red hair looked orange, and she looked just like Gemma. Tessa felt a pang. But wait, she thought. Maybe the pang was really a tingle, a clue that her wisher was nearby. She looked down at her brooch. Sure enough, Tessa's wish pendant was glowing brightly. This girl was her wisher. "Hey," Tessa said, running a bit to catch up. The girl stopped, then grinned. "Hey yourself. Are you a new volunteer with the summer program? I've been volunteering here all year, so if you want, I can show you around. Do you love animals too? I have a dog named Fiona, but I love all the animals here." Did the girl talk as much as Gemma too? That was tremendously perfect. "My name is Tessa," said Tessa, smiling happily. I mean, my family and I just moved to Hillsboro. Otherwise, I would have been working here all year." "I'm Lizzy," said the girl. Tessa thought she'd ask questions about Tessa's family or where she lived, or where she was going to school. She had already prepared some answers. Instead, a shadow crossed Lizzie's face and she fell silent. Together, the girls walked into the shelter and said good morning to Donna and Penny. Tessa heard barks and meows and some random thoughts. "I'm hungry." "That's my catnip." "Hope my walker comes soon." But she tried to shut them out. No distractions, she told herself firmly. Now is the time to concentrate on Lizzy. First order of business, figuring out her wish. Tessa had to stick close to her, get her talking again. "I'm supposed to be shadowing someone this morning, to learn more," Tessa said to Lizzy. "Can you be my person?" "Sure." Lizzy brightened. "I can teach you everything I know. It's good, really, because..." There was that shadow again. "Today is my last day, and I'll feel better knowing you're here." Before Tessa could ask a question or get more information, Lizzy turned away. "I usually feed the dogs their breakfast first thing." "Okay," said Tessa, following Lizzy to the storage room, where they filled bowl after bowl. Lizzy would only be there that day. Tessa really had to act quickly. When Tessa brought Tiny a bowl, he threw his body against the gate and wagged his tail harder than any other dog. "Wow, that's some greeting," said Lizzy. "Tiny is usually very particular, so you must have a way with animals." "I hope so," Tessa said with a laugh. "We used to live on a farm." She slipped inside the kennel, careful to close the door quickly. Tiny jumped all around her, and it was all Tessa could do to put down the bowl without spilling any food. Tiny swung his head back and forth, looking at the bowl, then Tessa. Clearly he was torn, but in the end, food won. As he slurped his breakfast, Tessa quietly edged outside to rejoin Lizzy. "You must miss the farm terribly," Lizzy said. "Just like I'm going to miss this shelter. We're moving away too, in just a few days. That's why I won't be working here anymore." Lizzy was moving away. This was important information. Maybe her wish had something to do with that. Lizzy carried a bowl to the kennel next door. A little black and white dog backed into a corner and looked at her warily. "Here, Trixie," Lizzy called softly. The dog was so thin Tessa could see her ribs. She couldn't tell what Trixie was thinking at all. "Come on, girl," Lizzy said encouragingly. "Come eat." She put down the bowl, then slowly pushed it closer. Trixie didn't move. Lizzy moved it a little closer, then closer still. Tessa held her breath. Finally, Trixie bent her head over the bowl and began to nibble. For a long moment, Lizzy stayed as still as a statue. Finally, she backed out of the kennel, barely making a sound. "I'll give her some space now, but I think we just made some progress. Yesterday she wouldn't eat at all." "You really know what to do," Tessa said admiringly. "Well, I've worked at a bunch of different shelters. My parents are both in the military, and they're always getting different assignments. We've lived all over the world. Some places less than a year. Volunteering with animals makes me feel better each time we have to move." She took a breath. That was Lizzy's longest speech since her hello, Tessa realized. She hoped Lizzy didn't regret telling her so much. "Anyway, I'm here all day today," Lizzy added. "How about you?" That scheduling question again. "I don't know." Tessa snuck a peek at the countdown clock, in case anything had changed since she last checked. "Oh, you have to call home and check?" Lizzy asked, misunderstanding. Yes," said Tessa, "but I'm sure it will be fine." She swiped her Stars app a few times and got ready to have a pretend conversation, but a voice with a much different accent from Lizzy's answered. "This is Regina Barnes at the London office of Barnes, Barnes and Barnes. How may I help you?" The woman's voice was loud enough for Lizzy to hear. "Oops, wrong number." Tessa hung up. "I'll just text later." Lizzy looked at her sympathetically. "I know it's hard getting used to different home numbers, and everything else." "It is hard," said Tessa. "I can't believe I just called London instead of Hillsboro." Tessa acted like she knew all about London, but for all she really knew, it could be the next town over. "We actually lived in London for a while," said Lizzy. "And it wasn't so bad being out of the country. I had a great friend named Nola who lived next door. We still keep in touch." She smiled at Tessa. "I try to stay friends with people I like. You should give me your contact info before we say goodbye." "Sure," said Tessa. If only she and Lizzy really could stay in touch. Wouldn't that be star-amazing? She thought. Her mind wandered to scenes in which she and Lizzy were both grown up, traveling back and forth, meeting each other's families, going to each other's weddings. "Tessa?" said Lizzy. "Are you all right? You have a funny expression on your face." "I'm fine," Tessa said firmly. blinking her eyes to shake away the thoughts. She was fine, as long as she kept her mind on the mission. No distractions. What should we do next? A few star-mins later, they were settled in a quiet area of the cat condo's room, holding miniature baby bottles to feed milk to the kittens. Me! Me! Tessa heard the thoughts of the kitten she'd cuddled the day before coming from one of the cages. Gently, she scooped her out from a pile of snuggling cats. "I'll call you Snuggles," she said. Lizzy showed her how to hold Snuggles in the crook of one arm and tipped the tiny bottle by her mouth so she would start to drink. Then she took her own kitten and sat next to Tessa. Tessa smiled as Snuggles drank. The tiny creature thought. Tessa could have sat there all day holding and looking at Snuggles, but she reminded herself that she was on Wishworld for a reason. She had to find out Lizzy's wish. "So," she said softly, trying not to disturb Snuggles. "It must be really hard moving around so much." For Tessa herself, it would be near impossible to leave the farm. Her family had owned the land for generations. Every star night, she'd look up at the sky, find her great-grandparents and her great-great-grandparents' stars twinkling down at her, and know they were pleased. Tessa knew that after she graduated and finished her Wishworld duties, she'd go back to Solar Springs. She wasn't so sure about Gemma, who liked to be more in the center of things, but at least Gemma would always have a place to call home. "Do you have sisters or brothers? Or both?" Tessa asked Lizzy. Lizzy shook her head. "It's just my parents and me. And my dog, Fiona, of course." She smiled. "She's almost like a sister. We've basically grown up together. I don't remember a time she wasn't with us." Tessa smiled back. That was nice, and it sounded like Lizzy had a strong family. But maybe she wanted roots, just one place to call home. Maybe Lizzy's wish was to stay right there in Hillsboro. "Do you wish you weren't moving?" Lizzy shrugged. "No, I'm really okay with it. And it's necessary for my family. It's all part of my parents' jobs." Tessa mentally crossed that off the wish list. Lizzy looked at Tessa a little anxiously. "Don't get me wrong. Hillsboro is a great place. I'm sure you'll like it here. I've made a ton of friends." "Oh." Tessa straightened. Maybe the wish had to do with friendship. Snuggles looked at her questioningly, so Tessa relaxed a bit and waited for the kitten to get comfortable. "I bet you wish you could make tons of friends at your new school." "I think I will. Making friends has always been pretty easy for me. You know," Lizzy said with a laugh, "I've had lots of practice." Okay, so making friends wasn't the wish either. "Would you want your friends to throw you a goodbye party?" Tessa asked. "They already have," Lizzy told her. "The last day of school." She stood and carefully put her kitten back in the cage. "Let's walk some dogs now." For the rest of the morning, Tessa and Lizzy worked together. They walked Tiny and a dog named Oliver. They watched over more dogs at the dog run and took some visitors around the shelter. Lizzy was welcoming and courteous to everyone, and Tessa could see she did indeed make friends quickly. In fact, Tessa felt like she and Lizzy were becoming friends. That was nice. But between taking care of the animals and talking, Tessa kept forgetting about her mission. So, just to be on the safe side, she set her Stars app on reminder mode to go off every Wishworld hour. When it went off at lunchtime, Tessa asked, "Do you wish you were moving to a different place?" "No," said Lizzy. "We're going to Australia, and I'm curious about it. I've never been there before." When the alarm buzzed an hour after that, while they were cleaning litter boxes, Tessa asked, "Do you wish you could finish the summer program here?" "Not really," Lizzy said. "Of course I'll miss the animals, but I'm planning to volunteer at an Australian shelter too." She looked at Tessa curiously. You sure like to ask a lot of questions. Tessa blushed. Star Paula, I'm sorry if you think I'm a busybody. It's just time is running out. You'll be leaving soon, and I have so many questions about moving and making friends. The afternoon passed, with Tessa asking more questions and getting no real answers. At 5 o'clock, Penny said, That's it, girls. The shelter is closing. Then she put her arm around Lizzy. Thank you so much for all your help. Make sure you stay in touch. You have our shelter email, my personal email, and all our addresses? Lizzy nodded, a little teary. My mom's outside waiting. I'd better go. No, Tessa thought. You can't leave. But then she realized she had to go too. Together, the two girls walked through the door. Are you sure you can't come back tomorrow? Tessa asked. Yes, I'm sure, Lizzy said. There's too much to do. I have to run errands, pack. We're leaving the day after. Then she smiled. Hey, come home with me for dinner. And this way, you can keep asking me questions. That would be great, said Tessa, pretending to text her mom as they stood outside. The sky was overcast, and the air felt damp and warm. Down the path, Lizzy's mom was waiting in the car. This is Tessa, Lizzy said. She's new here, and I just invited her to dinner. Lizzy's mom frowned. Honey, our house is almost all packed up, and you need to take care of so many things. Tessa stepped closer to the car. Remembering how Wishling adults like to be addressed, she said, Hi, Mrs. Tessa paused, realizing she didn't even know Lizzy's last name. Bennett, said Lizzy. Mrs. Bennett, Tessa continued. I can be a big help. I should come for dinner. You can be a big help, Mrs. Bennett said slowly. You should come for dinner. She glanced across the street. Is there a new bakery around here? I smell chocolate eclairs, just like I had growing up. That's great, said Lizzy. It will be nice to have company while I pack. Tessa breathed a sigh of relief. At least now she would have more time with her wisher. Still, she'd been on Wishworld 2 days already, and there was lots left to do. Besides figuring out the wish, she still had to help make it come true.